Mrs. Sachs, no ministers, no politicians, no diplomats. What kind of meeting is this?
This was a great meeting of engineers. The challenge of decarbonizing the world by 2050 is a huge challenge that first and foremost is an engineering challenge. How to change the energy system, the transport system, the way that buildings operate, the industrial processes requires the knowledge and leadership of engineers. And FEEM brought together some of the leading engineers and leading engineering professional associations to this meeting for really rich and deep discussion of the technical pathways to decarbonization and, of course, a lot of the practical challenges as well as the technological challenges.
Okay, great. What are the main results of this 2 days meeting, and what is the next step?
The main result is a determination to present a report to world leaders in September at the United Nations, when there will be a special summit on climate change called by UN Secretary General Guterres. We will give a report at that point, a report from engineers about the engineering to reach zero emissions by 2050.
It's the first time that such a report has been will be presented to the head of state?
It is the first time in my knowledge and experience that the engineers will be giving the engineering insight to the heads of state. This issue has been dominated by lawyers, by diplomats, by politicians. They're the ones that meet, they're the ones that sign the treaties, they're the ones that sign the agreements, they're the ones that negotiate. The engineers who know what to do are often not in the room. And part of the purpose of the meeting of the last 2 days was those who know should be in a position to say to those who need to do, this is how we can achieve the goals that you set in Paris, but to really achieve them, not just to talk about them.
Okay, this is the point. I mean, it looks like we have technologies, we have enough time, maybe, but it looks like the most difficult part is convince who has to take the decisions, the United States.
I think there's a lot of confusion. Some of the propaganda, if I could put it that way, that we hear often from vested interests is, we can't do it. When I read the Wall Street Journal in the United States, it's filled with negativism. It won't make any difference. We can't do it. We don't have the technology. This is not right. This is not what the engineers said in this meeting at all. The engineers said, here is the basic pathway. Much is known. There are parts that are known in principle but still need to be put into practice. But there are no fundamental obstacles to decarbonization by mid-century. This is the word that needs to go to the politicians. And then we will strongly urge that the heads of state, in their role as leaders of their governments, do what the climate change agreement says they should do, which is to make a scenario to 2050 to actually show how their country can accomplish the goal set in Paris to stop the global warming.
How would you convince China to stop coal emissions, coal industry? I mean, how would you convince these politicians in September?
I would say several things to a Chinese leader. First, you're choking on the coal. I go to China all the time. The air is unbreathable. Millions of people are actually dying every year prematurely from the air pollution. So this is ridiculous to be trying to breathe that air which is not safe for human beings. Second, the climate danger for China, as in all parts of the world, is very significant. China has major water crisis. It's going to face a significant crisis from climate change. They should know better. Third, China has leadership technology. China is the low-cost producer of much of the clean energy that is going to be needed, especially the photovoltaics, the very large wind turbines. This is for China an important opportunity as well as a challenge that fits into their own industrial sector very, very well. Fourth, China has an international responsibility. It is the number one or number two economy in the world right now. It is the number one emitter of greenhouse gases. The whole world is looking to China. Don't wreck the planet. You have a responsibility, and I would say to a Chinese leader, this is really necessary.
Do you think it's enough? Saying you're choking us? Do you think it's...
Well, it's choking themselves, but they're threatening the whole world with climate change. Is it enough? If we all cooperate, it is enough. It's a little harder that the President of the United States is a very confused individual, unfortunately, not on the right track, but politics changes in the U.S. as well. So what will work best for China is if the United States and the EU together are all in the same direction. When the United States is off promoting fossil fuels and coal and actually very short-sighted policies in the Trump administration, everything becomes harder. But I think our politics will change because we observe at the level of the U.S. states a tremendous amount of forward progress.
Okay, in this sense, do you think that the 2020 election is going to be a crucial point for the climate change fight?
2020 election's crucial for the world, let me put it that way.
Okay. Professor, could you give us a few technical insights about what has been decided, discussed here in these four fields, like transports, building, power?
The basic path is agreed. The core of it is to shift from the fossil fuels to renewable energy, especially wind, solar, hydroelectric, geothermal, and others. This is the core. Because with that electricity, first you reduce emissions from electricity generation, but also that clean electricity can then be used for transport through electric vehicles. It can be used directly for heating buildings through electrification and heat pumps. And one of the main pathways we discussed was using the clean energy to create synthetic fuels. Hydrogen, of course, methane synthetically, synthetic hydrocarbon liquids, which could be used in our current technologies without net emissions of carbon dioxide.
And what are the most achievable things in this?
Within the current mix of technologies, already solar is at grid parity in many places in the world. It's already the cheapest option in many places in the world. As long as old sectors are not subsidized, right now we're just seeing photovoltaic projects and wind outcompeting alternatives in the U.S. At the state level. A lot of projects on natural gas are being canceled right now. There is not a single coal-fired power plant in design or construction in the United States, zero, because already wind and solar are cost competitive and they're being adopted quickly. Electric vehicles are obviously coming very fast, falling sharply in price. That will be a second area. Electrification of buildings and very efficient buildings already coming. Electrification of thermal processes in industrial production, big advances. So I would say a lot is already happening. There are other areas that are still in design rather than in large-scale application, some of the synthetic fuels, for example, that will be necessary. One area that we did not talk about at this meeting that is very important and that we've agreed in a subsequent meeting will be the centerpiece is land use, because deforestation and farm practices are maybe about a quarter of the emissions worldwide. That part we didn't even discuss at this meeting yet.
Last two questions. What went wrong over the last 2 decades at the highest level meetings?
Basically, people who know what to do aren't listened to. People who are in power don't ask those who know what to do. This, to my mind, is the basic point. The politicians are short-sighted. They're often in the hands of vested interests. They are not scientists, they're not engineers, and they have really let the world down seriously. So I blame a lot of the process that we've had and the politics, not the science has been quite clear, the urgency has been clear, but we haven't acted.
Okay, the last question, what can people do to decarbonize the planet, and are you optimistic?
People will decarbonize the planet when they are supporting the politics to clean up. And when they're saying to their politicians, what are you doing? We need green energy, we need clean. When they're saying to the businesses, we're going to buy your products when your products are safe for us. The public is really responding right now. We're seeing a generational change. We're seeing the school kids out on Fridays now by the hundreds of thousands.
And that is more useful. That is more useful than buying an electric car, for example.
Well, right now, I think people are buying electric cars. The prices are coming down sharply, and they're going to buy a lot more of them. And I believe that basically we should tell the industry and consumers should tell the industry, look, you can't keep producing and selling millions of vehicles that are dangerous for the planet each year. You have to sell us clean, safe vehicles. That's what we count on. Don't fake it. Don't make false tests. Don't sell us diesel, which is polluting the air. We want clean, safe vehicles. That's what we want to drive, and we want them to be affordable. And then I would say the auto industry of Europe is super high-tech. It can figure out this problem if it hears clearly from consumers and also from the global leadership. Clean up the act.
Good luck.
Thank you. Good. Thanks a lot.